Hello, hello. All right. Mic is working. How's everyone doing? All right, if you're watching this remotely, I'll tell you it is hot in Singapore and there are a lot of people here for F1. It's exciting, and I'm excited to be here today. So, quick question to the audience. Who was following the market or working in Web3 back in 2018? Show of hands. Okay, we got a few people. So there was a lot of hype, a lot of talk about the promise of blockchain, but we only had about 10,000 daily active users using Ethereum every day, okay? It was primarily developers, people who were playing around, who were getting in, actually using protocols, and it was really hard to do, okay? So we've gotten to a point now where we have, on a good day, maybe 10 million users across every single blockchain. That'd be a huge day, all right? And I'm not counting people that are getting on exchanges and trading tokens. I'm talking about real utility of a blockchain. So I'm going to talk today about the path to 100 million, and then obviously we want to get beyond that to hundreds of millions and billions of users, but we've got to start somewhere, all right? So why aren't there 100 million daily active users today, okay? Well, the reality is that we've got an issue with user experience, economics, and shared security. And I speak, by the way, from a lot of experience here at SKALE. SKALE is a scalability blockchain. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SKALE Labs, the core team behind the SKALE network. About a year and a half ago, we had less than 1 million transactions on chain and less than $1 million in gas fees saved. Fast forward to now, we have over 150, or roughly 150 million on-chain transactions in that period of time, and almost $2 billion in gas fees saved. So we've come a long ways, and so I'm speaking today out of our learning lessons, and I think these are pieces that the industry needs to really engage with to move the ball forward. So why is this difficult? Well, the challenge is real. Security and user experience are diametrically opposed. To make something very secure, it also makes it more difficult to access, okay? If you want it to be really easy to access, well, it's going to be less secure naturally, okay? Then you throw in decentralization as a third pillar, it adds a new dynamic that's even more challenging, okay? So UX and security are at odds with each other. Who here is familiar with the Maslow hierarchy of needs? Okay? All right, for those of you not familiar, this is a very famous study and premise that you can't worry about your higher order needs, self-actualization, self-esteem, love, if you don't have food and shelter, okay? I would also argue that there is a blockchain hierarchy of needs, or Web3 hierarchy of needs. So I wrote a post about this a while ago. If you're interested, go check it out. But when you looked at the conversations researchers had in 2018, 2017, it was all about security and decentralization. And we were just scratching the performance level, okay? But it was all there, security and decentralization. And as that got the stable foundation, we started researching and building and innovating on performance. And we're finally there. Now we have this element where there's societal acceptance and getting crypto products into the hands of normal users, not just DeFi degens. And now that we're there, we need to really nail the accessibility piece, okay? And so the smartest minds I see, many of the smartest minds, are going from base level security and decentralization, thinking about accessibility. So how do we make Web3 more accessible? I believe there are 3 pillars: authentication and identity, wallets, custody and ramps, and protocol level improvements. Number 1, there's not a one size fits all. And I think we often get pulled into these camps where we feel like when it comes to authentication and identity, you have to be entirely decentralized or entirely centralized. The reality is that the world needs both. And so by enabling traditional authentication methods through Facebook, Gmail, different OAuth techniques, we can let more people access blockchain while not having these people need to have an identity be just a 0x address. At the same time, I think it's really critical to maintain accessibility for crypto native users, people that want to log in with MetaMask, that want to plug in through Ledger. And so these are not mutually exclusive goals. And I think the best projects of today are recognizing this and attacking the market with the idea of being seamless in mind and still being able to attract the early adopters, okay? Also, account recovery is important. You want to have different methods. Again, that's not mutually exclusive, centralization versus decentralization. Next piece would be wallets, custody, and ramps. So, hey, we've got to make it easier for people to store their assets, easier for them to retrieve them, recover them. We need to have multiple types of custody solutions. It's critical for applications that want to scale to not solely rely on MetaMask, Ledger, different custodial wallet solutions. However, again, not mutually exclusive. Both these worlds can coexist. Ramps are also very critical. Letting a user be able to go directly from fiat to crypto in a seamless fashion through scaling platforms as opposed to just the Ethereum mainnet is crucial. Last thing I want to say is beware of omnibus storage models. This is where you have an NFT that's minted, it just sits in one wallet, nothing ever happens with it, and then you just have a Web 2 application. And then people just use a product like, oh, look at the NFT I own. Well, they don't really own it. Now, by the way, I'll say that's a good place to start, but I've seen a lot of projects start with omnibus models and then start deploying more account-centric models with both custodial and non-custodial options. But I think as an industry, we can't abandon our first principles of blockchain. Why are we using Web3? Why are we using NFTs? And we need to keep that in mind. Okay, economics. Economics matter a lot. If you had to take a $10 taxi and you had to pay a $10 fee on top of that, you would not be very happy, right? Same thing's true with an on-chain transaction, all right? So I want to talk about this, a transformational premise of chain fees as opposed to gas fees. Scale, for example, leverages chain fees. So developers can pay for space and capacity, and that pays validators as opposed to paying for transactions. Now, there are transaction subsidy models in traditional infrastructure where you can use a relayer, but the unit economics are still not phenomenal. When you have chain fees, the unit economics actually scale to being able to address hundreds of millions of users and billions of transactions, okay? Imagine if Amazon charged every single ping to the server something back to the end user. It wouldn't work. You're paying for space, you're paying for utility, even if you don't use all of it. Okay, so I want to address quickly pooled security models and shared security models. This is a hot topic in the infrastructure world right now. And so most blockchains are one database. At the end of the day, it's a database, and that database has only a certain finite capacity of throughput. When more is going through that database than it can handle, more is going through that pipe than it can handle, you need to have some sort of gating mechanism. That gating mechanism are fees, gas fees. And so if you want to move to the front of the line, you can pay more. Well, imagine if you weren't capacity constrained. So in the world of Scale, as an example, there are many, many chains all working together. And Scale is built on Ethereum. And these numerous chains are able to increase capacity while being able to keep those surge fees lower or non-existent at the user level. Okay, so when you look at app chain models, this is another more advanced topic, but security, if you see the security in the layer 1 blockchain, there's one database, one set of validators or one set of miners, and one blockchain, okay? App chains often have many small app chains and many small security pools. What that means is the security is weaker if there's less participants in that section, all right? Now the goal is to have many of multi-chain models or modular models or app chain models, is to have many unique smaller chains, but one shared pooled security set, okay? So this is, for example, how Scale functions. Scale also shares security with Ethereum. So do other protocols. This is a new topic. If you're following blockchain infrastructure, do some research on shared security. In the case of Scale, there's a stake in the Scale network that goes on the Ethereum mainnet. So the Ethereum mainnet validation secures the Scale network at a root foundational level. So, but then at the end of the day, these chains are running with one unified validator set for Scale, but this validator set has these bifurcated groups. And so what you end up getting is you don't share security. You share security, but you don't share performance, okay? When you share performance, when you share capacity, then bad things can happen. Now, one of the issues with having smaller security sets are collusion and different types of attacks. And so pooled models leverage kind of this herd dynamic where you have many, many validator operators and using lots of fancy mathematics and cryptography, being able to pull them into these sets together and rotate them. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to make small groups that are powerful, but they're a piece of a larger group that are strong, okay? Small groups are agile and fast. The bigger group is secure and has very strong defense. So this model, not only does it add a lot of capacity, but it lets you be really fast. So Dartmouth Blockchain did an independent research, and they looked at SKALE, Solana, Polygon, Avalanche, Near, and some others, and they looked at transactions per second in a real-world environment, not marketing numbers, and they looked at time to finality. How fast does that block actually settle? Well, because SKALE has all of these blockchains and it has a very fast consensus and a different type of EVM that's very fast, it scored higher than all these other chains. And the total throughput, there are 20 chains right now, is 20 times 397, not 1 times 397. So this model, we're kind of the early adopters here. We started doing this in 2018. And it's really exciting to see this model become accepted and people recognize that you can get greater performance without fragmenting security. Okay? A few last pieces. So zero knowledge proofs add a lot of security with the goal of having a small footprint and having still relatively small fees. So SKALE is launching something called levitation protocol that will allow zero knowledge proofs to plug into every SKALE chain. But then you say, well, hey, but now there are fees. Well, these are configurable fees. So let's say I'm a developer, I'm making a game, and I have these really expensive NFTs. But then I also have all of these on-chain transactions. Well, I could set up the system automatically so that when a user mints that NFT, it uses a zero knowledge proof and then it publishes that back to the Ethereum mainnet, making it even more secure at a greater cost. And then this gameplay, all these other actions that you want on chain can keep happening in a gas tree model. And so these things can coexist. So this is one example, but if you look at traditional enterprise software today, it's very sophisticated. There's a lot of configurability. There's a lot of, I'd say, efficiencies already gained, and blockchain is catching up. All right, so I'm going to leave you with some good news in the last minute I have. So from a builder perspective, right, there's different perspectives. There's a perspective of, I'm watching the markets, I'm watching the macro news, and it's cold out there, right? But from a builder perspective, I spend every day working with developers. And I will tell you, the time is now for growth and adoption. There are so many good teams that are learning these lessons, putting them into action. Like I said, there's been over 150 million transactions and over 1 million unique active wallets on SKALE in the last year. So we're seeing that in our ecosystem, and other people are seeing growth as well. But the growth is happening, the building's happening. And so people know that UX is important. There are hybrid models at play, and there are many infrastructure scaling solutions that are up and running. And my feeling is this type of building is happening, and this type of building and this type of growth will be what propels us into the next stage, okay? Now, there's obviously macro things that need to come together, but it's going to be real utility and real execution. And the good news is it's happening now. So hopefully this was informative. I thank all of you for listening. I'll be around if you want to talk later, and it's been my pleasure. Bye.